Ladies and gentlemen, Dust Devil lovers, Whirlwind enjoyers, and Holy Bolt haters. If you've been wanting to try out the Dust Devil Whirlwind Bleed build, but you don't think that is possible because you don't have any Ubers, don't worry, I got you. Before we get into details, the planner is linked down in the description. Any blank tempers in the planner are substituted by critical damage by transferring your items to your rogue and using Marksman Temper, manual for tempering. For this build, the only must-have is Thibaut's Will with decent damage reduction from close enemies, and its unique aspect. We will get more into that later. For the helmet, you can either go for Tuskhelm of Joritz, the Might, or Godslayer Crown. I personally prefer the Godslayer because of the innate cooldown reduction, but any normal legendary helmet with a decent cooldown reduction is fine. Your choice. You will need the Iron Warrior aspect for the armor, and you will also need the following rolls: Strength, maximum life, and resistance to all elements. Imposing will and crowd control duration for the tempers. For gloves, you need aspect of the fierce winds, max life, vulnerable, and critical hit chance. Crowd control duration, and critical strike damage for tempers. Thibaut's Will for the pants. Why Thibaut's Will? This build will go through your fury very quickly, and the pants will provide you with unlimited resources and multiplicative damage uptime because we will be spamming charge in this build, but more to that later. For the boots, you need the Ghostwalker aspect. For affixes, I recommend movement speed for faster pit farming, armor to max out the armor requirements, and ranks to charge. For tempers, you will need charge cooldown reduction and crowd control duration. But why not Relentless Berserker aspect? That is because the way that this build is set up, you don't need it. You will be having your berserking 100% of the time, as long as you play it right. For weapons, you need Berserk Ripping aspect on your two-handed mace. Strength, maximum life, and critical damage for the rolls. As for tempering, you will need chance for Dust Devils to cast twice, and critical damage. For both one-handed sword, you need strength, max life, and vulnerable on the affix rolls. Tempers will be chance for Dust Devils to cast twice, and critical damage on one. Dust Devil damage and damage while berserking on the other. As for the aspects, you need to put Ancestral Charge and Accursed Touch. You must be wondering why Accursed Touch aspect. This aspect gives you more vulnerability uptime as compared to Pressure Point, and this affix. For your two-handed sword, you will need the Dust Devil aspect, which was recently buffed, strength, max life, and vulnerable on the affix rolls, Dust Devil size, and critical damage temper. For both of your rings, you will need the following affix. Vulnerable critical strike chance, and one ring should have resistance to all elements to max out our elemental resistance. Aspects will be Bold Chieftain and Vocalized Empowerment. Tempers will be Brawling cooldown reduction and critical strike damage for both rings. As for the amulet, Cut to the Bone, heavy-handed and critical hit chance is recommended. I understand that having perfect rolls are hard to come by. So start with critical hit chance, plus either one of the skill affix, and work your way to getting all the affix together. You will also need imposing will and critical strike damage for the tempers. Now that we've covered all the gear requirements. Disclaimer though, the build does not require you to have greater affixes right from the get-go, but they are necessary to min-max the build, especially critical hit chance. I recommend having 60% crit chance for optimal gameplay, but having 70% plus crit chance will yield more damage. Skill tree and Paragon board will be provided in the planner, which is linked down below. My tempers on my items aren't exactly like the planner, because I am now using the Uber version of the build. But since you guys are starting out, just follow the planner. Now, let's talk about how the build is played. You simply need to walk up to any enemy within range, use charge, use one of your shout, and start spinning, then watch the enemies bleed out, and if they don't die, then rinse and repeat. Also, while spinning, do not hold down the Whirlwind button. You must spam it by clicking rapidly, either manually or something else. This way you will be generating more Dust Devils as you are canceling the previous Whirlwind animation. Simple as that. For bosses, refer to the previous step, but use all your shouts after charge. Spin like a ballerina and use charge and your shouts off cooldown. Iron Skin is your panic button when you need instant full health healing and when you want to face tank a boss skill that would one-shot you in normal circumstances. You might be also wondering why use charge instead of using an ultimate skill. Have you ever tried a build before wherein your damage just drops suddenly and you become very squishy at times? This is because you are not getting 100% berserking uptime. Berserking provides you with tons of benefits like damage, no shit Sherlock, damage reductions, and fury generation. Charge will not only provide you with 100% berserking uptime, but more damage and resource in conjunction with Thibaut's will. And what does Infinite Fury provide us with? Insane amount of Dust Devil via the devilish aspect and spamming Whirlwind. What does insane amount of Dust Devils provide us with? More insane amount of damage. More importantly, our build revolves around the aspect of Berserk Ripping, which requires you to be in a berserking state to dish out the massive bleed damage via the Gushing Wounds skill. Bleed build? What about Rage of Harrogath? No worries, my friend, that is covered by the Disembowel glyph. Common logic implies that we need 300% damage while berserking, but after theory crafting and trying various combinations, I find that higher vulnerable and critical strike damage yields more damage. I am still testing this out, and I will update the build as I go. And that is it for the no-uber version of the Whirlwind Dust Devil Bleed build. Use this build to farm materials and ubers, as the uber version is way more stronger than this. My full uber version of the build, including its planner, will be linked in the description. Transitioning from this build to full uber is easy when you gather the gears needed. It's as simple as plug and play and moving some of the aspects around. Priority for ubers is as follows: Ring of Starless Skies, Tyrael's Might, Grandfather, and Shaco. If you liked my guide and found it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. If you have any more questions, just post it in the comments, and I will answer whenever I am available.